Every night, the dog disappeared from the yard, and every morning, another toy was missing from his box. At first, no one noticed. It was summer, and the evenings stretched long and lazy. The windows stayed open past sunset, and the dog, Baxter, was quiet, well-behaved, the kind of loyal mutt that never caused trouble. Mid-sized, a mix of Labrador and something scruffy, with soft eyes and a tail that wagged more often than not. But then, the toys started vanishing. It wasn't obvious at first. Just a missing ball. A plush duck gone from the basket by the door. His favorite squeaky pig nowhere to be found. "Maybe he buried them," said Emma, the youngest of the two kids in the house. "Dogs do that, right?" her brother Max replied, already shrugging it off. But their dad wasn't so sure. "Have you seen any holes in the yard?" he asked their mom one evening. She shook her head. "None." That night, they watched Baxter more closely. He napped in the living room as usual, stretched out beside the couch, tongue lolling out. At 9:30, he followed the kids upstairs for bedtime like always. At Tadu, he was curled on the rug outside their door. By 11:30, he was gone. The side gate was still locked. The house was sealed, and Baxter had vanished. When he returned at dawn, his paws were dirty, and a small stuffed hedgehog was missing from the toy box. That's when the questions began. Where was he going? How was he getting out? And why? Was he taking his toys? The family searched the yard for clues. No holes under the fence, no damage to the gate, no signs of digging. It was as if he simply vanished into the night air and came back before anyone noticed. They tried closing him inside the laundry room the next night. He whined softly at first, then went quiet. At sunrise, he was back in the yard, and the old tennis ball he'd loved since he was a puppy was gone. No broken windows, no scratches on the door. Just another disappearance, and one more toy missing. The kids started getting worried. "Do you think someone's taking him?" Max asked. "Like, borrowing him?" Emma clutched her stuffed bunny tighter. "I think he's going somewhere he wants to go." The following night, their father decided to find out. He sat in the dark kitchen with a cup of coffee, phone in hand, flashlight ready. The house was still. Outside, the streetlights hummed. Baxter lay curled on the rug near the back door. But just before midnight, he stirred. No bark, no sound. He simply stood, stretched once, and slipped toward the side of the house. Dad followed, careful not to make a noise. He saw it. A small panel of loose wood near the back fence, hidden behind the compost bin. Just wide enough for a determined dog to squeeze through. Baxter nosed it open with practiced ease, then ducked out into the night. And in his mouth was a soft, well-worn stuffed bear. Dad followed from a distance, staying back so as not to startle him. Baxter moved with surprising purpose. Down the sidewalk, across 2 streets, past the old bakery, past the church with the broken bell. He didn't sniff the ground like most dogs, didn't stop to investigate trash bins or mark territory. He walked like someone with a destination. 15 minutes later, Baxter stopped in front of a building. The town hospital. He padded quietly across the lawn to a side wing near the pediatric unit. There, under a large first-floor window, he sat down, looked up, waited. The lights inside were dimmed, but faintly visible through the glass was a child's room. Fairy lights strung along the window, soft posters on the walls. A silhouette moved behind the curtain. Baxter dropped the bear gently at the base of the wall, then sat, still, watching. He didn't bark, didn't move, just stayed there, eyes lifted, tail silent. The curtain shifted slightly, as if someone inside had noticed. A small hand pressed against the window from the other side. And then, nothing more. After a few minutes, Baxter stood up, turned, and walked home. Dad didn't follow immediately. He stood there for a long time, staring at the small bear nestled in the grass under the window. It was old, a little torn, loved, and now, given. He had no words, only a question pulsing in his chest. Who was that child? And how did Baxter know her? The next morning, he didn't mention what he saw. He needed to be sure, so he waited for night to fall again. And when it did, Baxter slipped away with another toy, and Dad followed him into the dark. The second night was colder. The moon sat low behind scattered clouds, casting dim silver light across the empty streets. Baxter moved more slowly this time. He had chosen a heavier toy, a squeaky rubber dinosaur with one leg chewed off. He carried it in his mouth gently, like it was made of glass. Dad followed again, his steps careful and quiet. Same route, same pace, same building. Baxter crossed the hospital lawn and sat below the same window. Room 112. The curtains were drawn this time, but a faint pink glow leaked around the edges, the kind that came from nightlights and medical monitors. The dog placed the toy down, sat, and stared. He didn't howl, didn't bark. He just waited. The curtain moved slightly, but no face appeared. Still, Baxter didn't leave. He stayed for nearly 10 minutes, unmoving, guarding the rubber dinosaur like it was something sacred. Then, as before, he stood, turned, and made his way home. This time, Dad didn't linger. He returned faster, his mind racing. The next morning, while the kids got ready for school, he made a quiet call to the hospital. "Pediatric wing, room 112, he said. I just have a question." He half expected them to hang up, but the voice on the other end was kind, soft. "Yes, that's Lily's room." Lily. The name hit him like a forgotten memory. The little girl who used to live 2 doors down. The one who always wore a pink helmet on her tricycle and loved to collect wildflowers from the yard. The one who used to run giggling through the sprinklers, with Baxter chasing after her, tail wagging, tongue flopping. But they hadn't seen her in weeks. Her house had gone quiet. Her mother had stopped walking their route. They thought she'd moved, or gone on vacation. But she hadn't. She'd been sick. The nurse on the phone hesitated before continuing. "She's been here for a month. Bone cancer. Aggressive." He sat down. Hard. "I didn't know," he whispered. "No one did," the nurse replied. "They've kept it quiet. But she's fighting. Really hard." He swallowed. I think my dog knows her." A pause. Then, "Is he the one bringing the toys?" "Yes." She exhaled softly. "Lily looks out that window every night. She hasn't wanted to talk to many people, but she waits for him." The next night, they all followed. The whole family. Max with a flashlight, Emma with her bunny, Mom in a heavy coat with tears already forming. Baxter didn't notice them. Or maybe he did and didn't mind. He walked as he always had, calm, deliberate. This time he carried a plush rabbit. Emma's. She had placed it near the toy box just before bedtime, whispering, "Take this one." He did. When they arrived at the hospital lawn, they hung back near the edge of the trees. Baxter approached the window, set the bunny down gently, and sat. He looked up, and this time, the curtain pulled open completely. Lily was there, pale, small, wrapped in blankets, her hair thinner than they remembered. But her smile, it was light, bright, a spark in the dark. Her hand pressed against the glass, and Baxter stood, pressed his paw gently to the ground beneath the window, right where her hand would be if the glass weren't there. He stayed that way. Still, connected. And then Lily nodded, a soft, tiny motion, as if saying, "I see you." Baxter turned and walked back. This time, the family didn't follow. They stayed, silent, watching the girl in the window who hadn't smiled in weeks. Smile again. The next morning, Emma found a note taped to their front gate. It was handwritten in blue marker, the letters shaky but determined. "Thank you for the toys. He's my best friend." Lily underneath was a small drawing of a dog, with big floppy ears and a toy in his mouth. Emma didn't cry. She just pressed the note to her chest and whispered, "He's ours too." That day, they washed all of Baxter's old toys, sewed the broken ones, cleaned the torn ones, prepared a new box just for him. And that night, Baxter had his pick. It became a ritual. Each evening, just after the sun dipped below the rooftops and the last of the dinner dishes were washed, Baxter would sit by the toy box, tail wagging, waiting. He no longer had to sneak out. The loose fence plank had been repaired, but no one locked the gate anymore. He was allowed to go. He was expected to. The family watched as he made his selection with almost comical care, sniffing, nudging, sometimes picking up one toy, then setting it down to choose another. A plush turtle one night, a chewable rope the next. Once, an old sock with a bell inside, long forgotten behind the couch. Baxter always picked something soft, something gentle, and carried it in his mouth like it was priceless. Then he'd walk, not rushed, not slow, just steady, like someone fulfilling a duty. He always returned before dawn, paws a little dusty, breath warm from the night air, tail thumping softly as if to say, "I did it." Word began to spread, not in some viral social media way, but locally, quietly. The hospital staff began leaving the curtain open for Lily at night, so Baxter could always see her, and she could see him. Nurses began collecting the toys left beneath the window, placing them on a small shelf near her bed. By the end of the second week, she had a full row. The rabbit, the turtle, the one-legged dinosaur. A little tag was taped above the shelf. Gifts from Baxter. The doctors noticed a change, too. Lily was eating more, smiling more, asking questions again. She wanted to be wheeled to the window in the afternoons, wanted to sit up longer, wanted to hold the toys Baxter had given her while she napped. "He makes me feel like I'm home," she said once. "He remembers me." The day she asked to go outside, the nurses cried in the hallway. It had been weeks. They cleared it with the doctors, set up a chair, blankets, oxygen, just for a few minutes. And when she stepped out onto the lawn, the air cool and the world wider than her hospital room had allowed her to remember, Baxter was already there, waiting. He didn't run to her. He walked slowly, respectfully. And when he reached her, he dropped the toy. Today, a small stuffed cat, at her feet. Then he lay down, not beside her, but in front of her, facing her, eyes on hers, and stayed there. Lily didn't say a word at first. She just reached out, hand trembling, and touched his head. The first contact in weeks. And in that moment, she didn't look sick. She looked safe, whole, alive. Photos were taken, but not shared online. They were printed, framed, placed in both homes, Lily's and Baxter's. That night, when Baxter returned, he didn't go straight to bed. He walked over to the toy box, sat down, and stared at it. The family gathered around, watching. "He's thinking," Max whispered. Emma tiptoed over and opened the lid. Inside were only 3 toys left. Baxter looked at each, then gently took out the smallest. It wasn't anything special. A faded stuffed banana with the squeaker long broken. But he held it like treasure, and walked it to the front door, then sat down, waiting. "Can we go with him?" Emma asked. Her parents looked at each other, then nodded. This time they all went. A quiet walk through the neighborhood, streetlights humming, leaves rustling, no one speaking. At the hospital the window was dark. No Lily. Baxter stopped, stared, waited. The curtain didn't move. His ears twitched. He paced once in a slow circle, then placed the banana down, more carefully than ever, and lay beside it. Still, waiting. Then the side door opened, and there she was, wrapped in a blanket, her mother wheeling her slowly across the grass. Lily looked smaller in person, but stronger. She had insisted on seeing him one more time before a scheduled procedure the next morning. One that would be hard, one that would determine everything. When Baxter saw her, he didn't move. He waited until she reached him. Only then did he stand, walk forward, and nudge the banana into her lap. Lily laughed. It was soft, like wind through wind chimes. The family watched from a distance as the girl and the dog sat together under the stars, connected not by words, but by every toy he'd ever carried. And every night he'd waited by her window. Spring came slowly that year. The trees filled out with green again, and the smell of rain clung to the sidewalks. Life moved forward, as it always does, in small, unnoticed ways. But Baxter's walks to the hospital stopped, not because he forgot, but because Lily came home. It was a quiet homecoming, no balloons, no parade. Just a sunny afternoon, a squeaky wheelchair rolling up the sidewalk, and a soft cry when she saw the front yard. Waiting for her on the porch was a basket, full of every toy Baxter had ever carried to her window. Washed, mended, placed with care. And at the very top, the little banana. Lily laughed when she saw it, a pure, ringing sound. Then Baxter charged across the yard, tail wagging wildly, ears flapping, running so fast he almost toppled her from her chair. He skidded to a halt right in front of her, dropped a new toy, a stuffed heart, into her lap, and sat down, panting with pride. Lily reached out and hugged him. Not carefully, not gently, but fiercely, as if reclaiming something she had lost. He licked her face and whimpered with joy, unable to sit still, circling the wheelchair twice before finally settling at her side, leaning against her like an anchor. The neighborhood gathered quietly across the street, watching from behind hedges and car mirrors, not wanting to intrude, but unable to look away. Because it wasn't just a reunion. It was a victory. In the weeks that followed, Lily grew stronger. Little by little she walked again, first with crutches, then with nothing at all, always with Baxter beside her. He became her shadow. At physical therapy, he lay beside the exercise mats. At home, he sat beside her bed. When she ventured into the backyard to play, he followed every step, every stumble, every laugh. Some days were harder. There were setbacks, bad nights, fevers that scared everyone. But Baxter never missed a moment. He seemed to know before anyone else when she needed a nudge, a lick, a quiet vigil by the door. One evening, after a particularly long day of appointments, Lily sat on the porch steps, Baxter's head resting in her lap. She looked up at the fading sky and said, "You saved me, didn't you?" The dog blinked slowly, as if agreeing. Her mother, standing by the door, wiped her eyes silently. Because it was true. Love can be medicine. Hope can be stitched together, one toy at a time. And some heroes don't wear capes or say grand speeches. Some just sneak out at night carrying broken toys, leaving pieces of their heart behind, one by one, until the person they love finds the strength to come back home. That summer, Lily's family held a small party in their backyard. Neighbors brought cookies. Friends brought flowers. Lily brought herself, running now, barefoot in the grass. And Baxter chased her, tail high, tongue lolling, carrying the faded plush banana in his mouth like a trophy. At the end of the night, when the guests had gone and the stars blinked softly above, Lily sat beside Baxter under the old oak tree. She whispered to him, voice thick with sleep and happiness, "You don't have to bring me anything anymore." She kissed the top of his head. "You're the best gift." Baxter sighed and rested his head in her lap. And in the hush of that perfect night, it was clear. He had always known. He wasn't delivering toys. He was delivering hope. One small act of love at a time.